Ready? Ready. I'd like to call to order Palm Springs Art Commission special meeting of November 14th, 2024 at 2 p.m. Jay, can you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Landy.
Here.
Commissioner Silvera.
Here.
Commissioner Gascon.
Here.
Chair Armstrong.
Present.
Present, not present, are Tom Burns, Rhonda, Thomas Davo, Christopher Ramirez, and Lori Kitty. We have quorum.
Would someone make a motion for acceptance of the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda, then in the force.
Second. Second. Turn on your mic. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any public comments? This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. And agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time the item is heard by the commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments, pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned for each speaker. Jay, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments.
I have no remarks. Anything I say will be on the specific items in front of us. Items for discussion approval, F1, approval expenditure of $1,000 for public art signage. We heard from the artist Ryan Campbell that his piece down in the museum was being climbed on and people were putting their babies up there to take a picture, and he had evidence of somebody at the very top of it. So what we would like to do is we will immediately put some temporary signs up there with the same messaging as was circulated, and then we will get some metal ones made up that are permanent, and Public Works will install them. When we were discussing this, there's some other pieces that are going to be installed in the downtown area, and the people decided that we should have more of these. Yeah, so the thinking is we'll make them up and have them on hand regular so we can put them in wherever we do have problems. Does someone like to make a motion? Are there any comments or questions on the sign that was circulated and the need for those?
I definitely see a need for this, but are there going to be any future mitigations in regards to the artiste to prevent climbing on there? Because I could see it kind of being a liability for the city too if people feel compelled to climb it. Like, are we going to install barriers or rocks or something like that?
Jay, did you want to answer that? Liability issues?
You know, right now, the only mitigation will be the sign, but if it escalates, we can.
So we did go through a conversation with this with the people from Parks and Recreation Department, not the commission, but the department. And they were going back and forth because there are signs that they place at city parks on liability issues. And the fact that where we're putting this piece and the other piece are not city parks. So they're not guided by that. So their feeling was this sign was fine. And if we felt there was a further issue, then the city lawyer can redraft the sign. They do have sign language that they use for city parks. And I suggested they could put one at the perimeter to the area. But to me, they sort of read as like no parking here. You know, they're the same look, the same language. And I think most people kind of ignore them anyway. But we can post those on the perimeter, like there's some palm trees nearby. My feeling was we should be a little more artful with this sign so that people think it's part of the installation and they come up and read it and like, oh, I can't climb on this. So it's just a little more friendly and less legalistic, but we can place those at the perimeter to the area. Any other comments?
I was thinking about something maybe, why not put it a shallow pool of water around this rectangle? Nobody wants to have their feet wet.
Because we're in the desert and the water evaporates.
Right, fast,
Yeah.
yeah.
But even just like a small circle of rocks or something, just
Oh,
telling
they'll
people
go
that there
to
was-
the box.
Yeah, they'll just walk over.
Nails.
Yeah. I think it's just, once we have the dedication sign there, once we have this do not climb, I think most people are pretty good. So let's see what happens. We can go.
So Gary, there's gonna be a sign that explains the art, that it is a piece of art and who the artist is. I think that'll help a lot.
Yes, there will be a dedication sign on top of this, but this is meant to be something we will put near all sculptures in the downtown area.
What's the nature of these signs? Will they be embossed metal or painted wood? And how many will we get per 1,000? Where will they be kept? Just the extra supply of them.
We would have our facilities staff have the signs produced and they'll keep them and put them out as we request. I believe they're metal.
They're metal.
They describe it as.
With an enamel coating on it, yeah. So pure durable. So we're not worried about them fading. And again, getting 12 done in advance, so we will be at the time.
They have a look of a museum installation.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to approve this?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, agenda item F1, approve expenditure of $1,000 for public arts.
Like the second,
I'll say it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Right, aye. Public art vandalism and repair. So I want to jump actually to 2B first, the asphalt art. Carlos was working very hard with the Desert Valley community on the asphalt art installation. Last Saturday, the coordinated a wonderful community event. The mayor, council member Gardner was there. There was face painting and a DJ, and the community did a raffle. The sustainability department got involved and gave food and tents and shade. There were easily 20 to 30 people helping paint the mural, and they ranged in age from like a 6-year-old to local police, and all these people were there. It was a really wonderful event. And then the mural was nearly finished, and then it got finished overnight. And then it was barricaded through 4 p.m. on Sunday. Barricades were removed, and then by 7 a.m. Monday morning, it was graffiti and vandalized. I drove out immediately and looked at it, and it was sort of beyond. It wasn't just one or two things. It was throughout the entire mural. The police are involved. The police are investigating, but it needs to be completely repainted, and then they're going to put a new sealant on it. And Jay, we just need verification from engineering if they can proceed with the sealant. The sealant will be an extra heavy duty anti-graffiti one. My concern was making it too slippery because this is a road and you don't want cars coming and sliding, or you don't want people walking and sliding if it happens to be wet. So there is a ratio for the anti-grip in it. I just need to verify that. They have everything ready to go. And as soon as you can get that information, they can proceed. The community has already volunteered to help remove the graffiti and repaint it again. What we will need is for the repair, the road will have to be shut down for 72 hours in that area. So we'll be taking care of again from Charlotte. And then it's on KESQ on Monday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. They interviewed me and I was out there complaining, angry. Well, I was angry. And the reporter from KSQ sent me an email afterwards. She said after it aired, she said they got so many emails and phone calls from residents upset at what happened. I think everybody felt the same way, that it was this beautiful community-led thing that was immediately destroyed. Not just, and we were concerned it was going to get traffic destroyed. This was purposeful. So there's no extra cost to the art commission. The artist is taking care of this. What will need to happen though is we just need the go ahead from Jay to give us on the new execution, and then we'll need to close the roads down. But this is part of doing community art. This is what happens. So the next one is the George Floyd. And again, for context, the George Floyd mural went up in 2020, in June of 2020, around the time of the George Floyd protests. It went up on the building that was privately owned over the wood panels on the window. It started on June 10th, and then on June 11th, the building's owner's lawyer sent a letter to the city staff basically saying, this is our building and we did not know you were doing this. This is a bit of a concern, but we support the message, but here are the requirements needed for this to stay on our building. And it was the city was responsible for maintenance, removal of any damages. The owner could remove it at any time they wanted, and the city would pay for the cost of it. And they ended it with this mural will only stay up here for 6 months, meaning December of. Building was intended to be developed, those plans fell through, but there was construction fencing put around the building. And that stood that way for about a year and a half. And it was graffitied again. So I just wanted to say, the mural went up in June 10th, 20, and the art commission then approved paying the artist at their July meeting of 2020. I believe it was July 11th. At that meeting, the then city manager sat in on the meeting, and he's now a city council, appointed a city council member next year. He specifically said, this is temporary art. And the fact that the commissioners at that time were quite concerned about approving any funding for something that was street art in town. They said, this is not part of the city's art collection. This is meant to be temporary, and there was even an actual nice dialogue that we need to be careful that street art has a shelf life. It's meant to represent something in the moment, and it's not meant to be forever, which the city's art collection is meant to withstand all that. So they said we can fund it, but it's intended to be temporary. So this is at the July meeting. Between the installation and the July meeting, it had been damaged 3 times. It had to be repaired 3 times. Next main damage happened around 2022. And that's when there was white paint thrown on it and all these things. And as you know, we went back and forth, how do we deal with this, what do we do with it? And then we voted to repair it. And when we voted to repair it, it's on the condition that if there was significant damage, that we would remove the boards, rather than continuing to fund $4,000 to $5,000 on repairing something that is not part of the city's art collection and it's not on city property, it's on private property. So here's where we stand. As I said, the damage anecdotally seems to come whenever there is political unrest around elections. 2020, 2022, 2024, there's this anger happening in society. So we have something that the city paid for, not part of the city's art collection, on private property, and we can't control it. The city owner has said we can remove the boards at any time. And also the other thing that we did do when we approved the last bit of money was we paid for the photographer to memorialize the mural. So we have in front of us 2 options. We remove the boards, or we can pay to have it repaired again. That'd be another $4,000 to $5,000 to repair it again. That doesn't mean it can't be damaged a week later. So, any comments or questions?
Well, just going from my experience, dealing with this in LA, as you mentioned with temporary art, LA has a clause where, once a mural is registered with the city, it has to be upkept for 2 years, but then after that, it's up to the discretion of the private owner of the property and the artist, whether or not they're going to continue to keep the mural in functioning form. But after that 2 years, if both the property owner and artist fail to upkeep that mural, the city is at their discretion to remove or paint over that mural. There are some sticking points with Vara and Kappa in regards to if that was an original work of art that was placed there. The artist does have the right to have final say to restore it. But yeah, my opinion is that, as you said, it is temporary, and the ephemeral nature of murals is that unless there is a call to have it specifically preserved, like with some of the murals in LA, like with Spark and their murals, the city shouldn't be investing constantly in something that was legally meant to be temporary.
And I forgot another point I want to clarify. The artist, when he put the George Floyd mural up. He did minimal variations on the same mural in South LA and in Oakland. Same time. Same visual of George Floyd's head with different words behind it, but it was essentially the same mural, and both of those were gone. So we're the only one that did not remove the mural.
Why did we keep it for so long? It was only intended for 6 months.
I think the African American community also.
Sure.
Like, Igwe JOJ Center, when the mural was vandalized, like, it was a year ago?
It was a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago. You're very upset with the whole thing, and they emphasize that they would like the mural to be in downtown as it is, so people would see it and everything. So, out of respect, we just did it again. We brought the artist, Mr. Alec. He redid it. But I knew it was going to be vandalized again, and it's unfortunately.
And as I said, it's murals for Palm Springs are a challenge. 90% of the city's buildings are historical. So they're protected. We can't put murals on. Ones that aren't are like a parking garage. And is a parking garage the best venue to put a mural like this? It's not. And I personally don't like spending public arts money on private property because we can't control it. The owner could say, it's gone, I'm done. Move it. I will say that when I was at Desert Highland, is that Tuesday?
Yes, they are not so disappointed anymore. I think they were already expecting that it would happen.
Yeah, I mentioned, I spoke about the street art issue, the asphalt art thing, and I mentioned this, and I said, again, we're going to be discussing a special meeting. Please attend if you have comments. You can send public comment. They had a full house, and they basically understood. I think they realized. My sense from having conversations with them is they don't want that particular mural to stay. Their biggest issue is seeing it defaced and nothing being done.
Yes.
So they don't want it defaced downtown. Right now, it says meth across the space. So that's my sense. I mean, they were asked to attend, told how to do public comment. But my sense is they're sort of, we could just get rid of it.
Does the building owner have anything he wants to say about it, or it is his property, right?
You know, in the past, he's just been very cooperative with letting the artist refurbish the mural or just asking the city, you know, what do you want? What would you like to have happen? So.
Was he the one who originally asked for the mural? I mean, how did it get painted in the beginning?
What happened was at the time when it was COVID shut down and there were the riots around the country, a lot of building owners put plywood up on their building to protect it. So that's where the plywood is. It was, and it's low grade plywood. It was not meant to be beautiful art. You can't move that mural because 2/3 of it is on the plywood and 1/3 is on the area surrounding it on the actual. So if we remove the mural, we will have to do one of two things. We could just pay somebody to paint over the entire thing, leave the plywood there and just paint over the whole thing, or remove that plywood, put new plywood up, and then paint the surrounding area. Regardless, the building needs to be. So, or we could say, you know what, we want to maintain the mural on private property, knowing it could be damaged again. We can't control that. We can't, there's no way around.
Well, the building is when he was trying to sell it, I'm presuming they wanted to sell it and the new owner would take the building down. That would be, seems to be what happens right here.
We can't control that.
I'm definitely on the side of not necessarily painting over the mural, but taking the boards down. It is still I feel a substantial piece of Palm Springs history and kind of a view into what was happening at that time, and even just saving some of the boards. I think, as a museum person, I do see the cultural and historic value on that. But personally, I don't think we can keep the mural up there and keep spending indefinitely to have it unless we go through the processes of designating that mural as part of the collection, which would mean we'd have to buy the building.
Yeah, that's not happening. We
Yeah.
can't use public arts funds for architecture.
Exactly.
Nice thought, but no.
Well, I was thinking this at all angles, because, but we already have the high resolution photos
Yeah.
of that mural, so conceivably, I can see us as a public art commission saying that if the city wants to have that image put up again, we can make reproductions of that, we can make wraps, and it could even be available to other community members if they so want to request to have a wrap made and maybe under mural ordinances or something to be put up on their property temporarily. We already have that option there, but the mural itself, it would be very hard to constantly maintain it up until the property owner decides to take it down. Unless we compel them to have the onus of repairing it, which it sounds like they weren't interested in that.
Any comments? No. My recommendation is that we remove the boards. We will have to put new boards up and paint over the board. I'm actually torn whether removing the boards or just paint over the boards, but we need to remove. It's just become this moving target on that area that is not highly trafficked at night. And so damage can happen.
Homeless people are there.
And, well, I don't think it was homeless people. They're not really carrying around spray paint cans and, writing back
Well,
over his face.
I went there, I
So-
walked, and there are shoes and there
Yeah,
are.
yeah, but I don't think they're the ones necessarily doing the graffiti.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm saying aside that homeless people usually stay around.
Well, that's not our responsibility, that's code enforcement. So let's focus on what's art commission. And we don't want this art to make bad representation to the community. And I think it's disrespectful to the people of color, especially in Desert Island, that we have Matt written on his face. We do have the high resolution print. I would recommend that we then commission an artful print of that, get it framed, and we make that as a gift to City Hall. And the image hangs in City Hall. And that way it's preserved, it's memorialized. And that does not preclude us from doing anything else with the mural. Or other artists taking that imagery and finding other places, but we just do not have, we can't transfer that mural in its current form of the boards to another building. Because you're stuck with this low grade plywood. Even removing it will probably damage. Because it's been 4 years, and this, again, it was cheap wood. And the desert, as you know what does to wood, just cracks.
I still think there is a value in preserving the actual boards. As a museum professional, I've seen the lengths that museums and preservationists have gone to keep parts of history. And if we so feel, we can take the boards down and keep them, and then if the city so feels that this is an important part of history, they can add the boards to the collection, or put it out to maybe Palm Springs Art Museum or any other institution that feels compelled to want to keep the boards.
I understand that concept. It's been repainted so many times, the original. And so what you're preserving is his face saying that. We're not gonna, and as I said, even what's that mural that's there now is probably 2 generations from what it was originally. So, and they're so big,
I'm not sure what the value is of keeping it, if it's damaged. I mean, no one's
And
gonna
the
want
boards
it.
are all worked else.
Yeah, I mean, I would, I'm in favor of removing it or covering it, as inexpensively and as quickly as possible. I don't think we'd want that vandalism hanging out there. And I don't know if that means taking the boards off or just painting over the whole thing, I'm not sure. And it seems to me, and maybe it is our decision, but the building owner needs to have what he considers.
Our role in this is to say this mural should be removed. And I think that Jay can then determine within City Hall if there is an appropriate place for these boards, whether it be the Historic Society. They say, yes, let's keep them. But that's not our role because they're not public. The only reason why we're discussing this is because the muralist was originally paid out of public art funds, but it is, the boards are not public art. For something to become public
Mr.
art,
Alex doesn't need to approve it, right?
he signed a contract with Jay.
He said he would like to be consulted on any changes or modifications, but he did waive his, Laura and Kappa.
But see, you just want to temporary.
Our role, it's not public art. Because public art needs to be accepted into the collection by the city council. And it never even the original payment never made it up to city council. There's no staff report written, they never formally accepted it. So that's why it's like, we're playing, on one hand, we're treating it as, if it were just an artist who did this, it would be considered graffiti. And it would just be painted. So, and I think that we're being more respectful by saying, we're gonna document this, we're gonna find a way to utilize this message. But there are boundaries with what we can do, we can't do. We can't determine plywood, even though the message is good, is art. Again, the Historic Society may say, yes, it's worthy for us to keep, or they may say there's no value. Any other thoughts on that, Jane?
No.
I would like to at least have the boards down and then ask these organizations if they would be willing to take them. Then after maybe a certain amount of months, a year, no one wants responsibility for those boards can dispose of them. But I still think there are some people, and with respect to the population, that at least say that we tried preserving, and then ultimately people didn't see it as being able to be preserved.
So again, our role today is to determine whether we maintain it or remove it. We can vote to remove it, and we can add to that we can direct staff to investigate if any other appropriate organization or department has interest in maintaining them. I don't want to delay a vote because it keeps the message out there in that way.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of removing it, but in terms of painting over and destroying the actual mural, not really.
And I will say, we had this discussion 3 years ago. And the reflex from some commissioners was, oh, give them to the James O. Jesse Community Center. And on one hand, that goes back to who is the art really for? I don't think you need to let a community center who's predominantly Black members know about social injustice. They live it. The message is really for tourists downtown and white people downtown. We don't have buildings downtown. We display this. So again, it's who is the art for? Who is the message for? So the museum might be interested. They may not, but I think that's something that we direct staff to investigate actively.
Before removing Gary, can we talk to the community center, J Center, to see if they would like it, or at least let them know
No, well, I did let them know at the meeting.
that it will be one option to remove it, but they didn't know for sure it was going to be removed.
They could come here and make public comment. Again, anything we do is delaying. If we don't take action to delay, it's delaying it. Decision. So they can be removed and not destroyed. But if we don't want to remove it, again, I'm one voice. There's four others here.
No, I think it needs to be removed too. I just think that they should be aware of it.
I think they're pretty. They, can be removed. So, Jay, thoughts?
we'd want to determine who owns the mural. It's on the property of the property owner. The artist may want or still have some rights somehow, but, you know, it might be premature for the commission to discuss who to give it to if the commission doesn't actually own the artwork.
But if we're funding it, and we're funding the removal,
Could be.
okay, so we can make a motion to have the mural boards to be removed. The mural on the building to be covered over. Staff will investigate who has the funding responsibility for that. If it comes by the art commission's budget or general funds, if it's not, if the art doesn't have authority.
And just double checking, the artist did waive his bar and kappa, right?
That's correct. That was in the agreement when he did the last refurbishing.
So he understands the city has the right to remove it at any time.
He understands, but he did ask to be consulted with changes, so just be a courtesy.
So that's, again, Jay has to let him know that we voted for the mural to be removed. He can then take ownership of the boards. He can't take ownership of the building. That's half the mural, 2/3 of the mural. But I don't even think the boards are ours to give away to the buildings. Because they were there prior to the mural going up. They're not city boards. We didn't. So it's this very complex problem. And what we keep getting is remove the graffiti. Well, back to ownership.
So I guess we can vote to remove the boards, and as you said, city will determine who actually owns the physical boards, and if not, then reclaim to them.
I would say claims of ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah, claims of ownership to the mural that's being removed.
But I have a question, if we don't own the boards, then do we have the right to take them down? I mean, it never ours to begin with, it's like going to somebody's house and taking down their gate or something, you can't just do that.
But it's a contract, right?
There's a contract for that paid for, the most recent one is the renovation and rehabilitation of the mural. And at this point, I think it is really just the desire of the commission in terms of managing public art and, you know, in the collection and not in the collection, so that that desire could be communicated to the property owner and the artist. And then plus the commission's willingness to assist with the removal of art and paint what remains on the building.
There was a previous discussion with the owner, probably 6 months ago, if not a little longer, where the owner said, I'll remove the boards and put new ones up. So I think, you know, the owner does not want to be viewed as a place that is disrespectful. But they're not going to paint over the mural without. So I'm confident if Jay can find out and let the artist know that we think the mural has come to an end. And if the artist wants to retain the boards, we can facilitate that. If not, we will remove the boards and put new ones up. We can then direct staff to see if there's appropriate organizations within the city area that want to keep these boards as part of their preservation process, but we're not a preservation group. And go from there. And then at that point, we can also then make a recommendation, which we don't need to decide now. We can do it at our December meeting on ways that we think we should memorialize the mural. I mean, memorialize the grandson. For example, the beautiful print of the mural framed and placed at City Hall.
Also opportunities for postcards or even wraps that if other community members or private building owners want to have a temporary mural of that, they can request that too.
I think that would be up to the artist in terms of if he wants his imagery used. I'm not sure. I think it's one thing for the city to do it and put it in a controlled environment. It'd be another thing for another artist to manipulate someone's art. Again, we can discuss that in another meeting. The intent with this one is, what are we doing with this? Because it's in the face.
Yeah, I think the licensing and other aspects were also spelled out in the agreement, so we may not be able to. I think the artist may have preserved like some kind of licensing rights. So,
But we don't need licensing rights to do a photograph.
that's correct. It's not. I think language was for non-commercial.
Yeah, we're just
So,
giving it to the city and being on display. Anybody else have any other questions? Can you make the motion on this? This is kind of complicated.
I cannot make the motion, but I could try and read it. Yeah, it wouldn't be me. It would be one of you to make the motion, but I'll try and recapture
Okay,
what the language was. Move to have the George Floyd mural removed. That's it, George Floyd mural boards removed and the building painted to further remove the George Floyd mural from the parts that are on the building and identify funds available to help with paying for these costs.
did you want to make the motion or do you want me to? I'd like to make a motion that the Public Arts Commission remove the boards George Floyd mural. After consultation with the artist and determine their perspective on next steps for these specific. And direct staff to investigate if there are any preservation groups or organizations within the city that would like to maintain these boards. We'd also like to direct staff to place new boards on the building to cover the windows and to paint over the existing mural in place of the. At subsequent meeting, we will determine how we will memorialize the mural so it is preserved in some capacity within the city. Someone like to make a second? All good.
Hi.
Hi.
As a side note to this, I think it sort of begs the question about how we as a council deal with girls in general.
We can stay focused on this subject, you know? Yeah. Is that a yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay, yes, yeah, all right.
And we all voted.
Great. Murals, and again, this is the complicated part about the murals. Murals all start in planning. They do not start in the art commission. Planning gets the request for the mural. They ensure that it's appropriate for the building, it's appropriate for all zoning issues, it's not a commercial message. And then planning comes to the art commission for review for its aesthetic value, which is when we have the public hearing. And then it goes back to planning, and planning gives the permit for the mural. None of that happens.
I don't think that happened with the Thompson mural either. Did the Thompson just?
They did, but we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So yes, there are problems with the mural ordinances that we can deal with. They're complicated, they're burdensome, and they're tiny. It takes so much time to get a mural. it's another discussion. So on every level, the George Floyd mural was mishandled. The intent was right. You know, it was the social release valve for a time of unrest in the city, and it let people say, okay, the city has a certain welcoming message. Great. Keeping the graffiti up there is antithetical to the original. The irony is the intent originally was to renovate that building and turn it into a pot shop. And so him saying, I can't breathe, and it was something going to be on a pot shop. And then the last graffiti was joint coming out of his mouth. And, you know, and if you recall, he was killed over, I think, a pack of cigarettes, you know, and now it's just now. So everything about it, it's just, it's a big target. If you read the mural ordinances, it specifically states that murals cannot be on applications of wood to the building. This is fire hazard. And it also says that a positive attribute of murals can be an area where there's likelihood of graffiti, so the mural will prevent the graffiti. Well, that didn't quite work out. So I encourage you to all read the mural ordinances. Jay, do you want to send those to the whole commission again? Just so I think they're worth reviewing, understanding how this works and the process. Yeah, we need to improve on that. This is what we have to work with right now. Next item, commissioner agenda requests and comments. Anybody, quick thing that doesn't need to be addressed in the regular meeting? Or from director staff, anything?
Commissioner, just to let you know, we did receive a request from Thompson Hotel for reimbursement of their art fees. We'll be taking a look at that at the next meeting.
There's a couple of things that I asked you to get waivers over. Had a problem. Previous time a developer came, said they want their money back, and according to our ordinances, we were not allowed to give them the money back because what they said was art. It's not within what the ordinances said the payback needed to be. They then went to council, and city staff then created and wrote up waivers. Reading that. So I asked Jay, this time maybe get the waivers in advance of us voting, so we understand what they're trying to do. Because it was bad communication, and you know the headline for something that should have been important. The headline was "City Council overturns art commission," as opposed to telling us in advance what the possibilities. That will be at our December meeting or January.
Yes. Yeah, we will see, depending on how full the agenda gets.
And lastly, I've asked Brian Campbell, our behind crawler, to come and talk to us at our December meeting, just so you can see some of the challenges that happen and we'll getting art, which will, I think, will help everybody understand what is going to be happening with the artscape installations. As I said, most of the art and the work that we do with these big installations, proven the art's first 20%. Then it's out and understanding, working with what works with shutting the road down and, you know, all these other things that have to happen, and engineering and permitting and site inspections and all of that. Any other comments or questions? I encourage everybody to go look at the mural. I encourage everybody to go around and look at buildings and city-owned buildings. If there's any way we can do something with it, that would be great. Not the boards, but we do the mural in a different way. Or are there ideas what we can do to maintain the intent without the actual physical? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Public Arts Commission meeting. And we will adjourn the meeting on December 5th at 5:30 p.m. in the large conference room of Palm Springs City Hall. Someone like to second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.